You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, guys, welcome back to Grit Gym Live. Today we've got Mike Salemi. Mike is a little bit of a freak with the kettlebell. He's going to tell you a little bit about that, but excited to have him here. This is the first person that we've had that is competing in something that a lot of people use on a basically a day-by-day basis with their exercise and with their health to try to get in better shape. So he actually competes with a kettlebell. So it's a little bit of a different deal. I'm going to let him kind of tell. But Mike, can you kind of tell them a little bit about you before we get into this? Just give a little bit of background on where you are right now, and then we can kind of do the what do you call those? The prequel to your stories. But
Sure. Yeah, so I'm currently a kettlebell sport competitor. I've been in the sport for about 9 years, compete at a high level, and my background in terms of athletics really started probably at the age of around 9 or so in gymnastics. And I was a gymnast till I was about 15 until I found powerlifting. So for almost about 10 years, I got highly, highly competitive in powerlifting and trained with some really, really cool guys and some really top guys in kind of the game. Then in college, got into Olympic weightlifting. So I've always been surrounded by weights ever since I can remember. So I've always loved the physical conditioning aspect. And really just in recent years, I started gravitating more towards the kettlebell.
Yeah. How long have you been going with the kettlebell now?
About 9 years. Competitively, about 9 years. Kettlebells in general, a little over 12.
A little over 12. Because you trained at Westside for a little while, didn't you?
I did. That's when I was like most competitive in powerlifting. That's actually where I first touched a kettlebell. Was we were using belts, to support all the power lifts. And I think at that time, like Pavel had come to Westside maybe a few months or a year or so before that, and kind of showed those guys what it was about. And so we weren't doing very much. It was pretty much like a hard style swing, but that was that was the extent of it when I was there. But it was a phenomenal way to assist the power lifts for sure.
Well, I mean, really, the swing is where all the magic happens anyway. Like the swing is the whole deal. Like it's the best. Like in my opinion, I just think the swing is just an amazing exercise. I mean, like you're putting so much pressure on that. Like you're abducting at the hip, you're loading your posterior chain, you're getting that hamstring to fire. You're forcing an eccentric stress down in that direction that is just causing this huge change that you're going to have to overcome all that force going down. And the swing is just massive. So, but anyway, I really like.
Agree more.
What's that?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But how'd you get started? Like just exercise in general. Like you started at 9 with gymnastics. How'd you get going in that?
My brother was a gymnast. So my brother's about 2.5 years older, and at that point, I was always kind of following in his footsteps. And when I was a gymnast, like I was fortunate to have a really good coach. In all the sports I've been involved in, I've had some really high level coaches. And at that time, when I started, actually, this guy came in around maybe like when I was 11 or 12, and he was his name was Krasimir Dunev. He was a Bulgarian silver medalist in Atlanta, bronze medalist in Barcelona. He was the first person ever in history at that time to do what's called 6 release moves on the high bar. So that would be if you've ever seen someone like flip over the high bar, let go, and then re-catch. He was the first person ever to do 6 consecutive different release moves in a row. So at a young age, he was kind of my first role model. And, from, at that age, like all us kids in the gym wanted to be like him. And so I was very fortunate in that respect.
That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, around here, like everybody wants to wrestle.
Oh,
so,
okay.
my first idols were like these, like everybody was wrestlers instead of gymnasts. But wrestling and gymnasts, like arguably two of the most best developmental sports that there are. Just because you're using everything in your body to do. But do you think that like just having that guy around, that high level around, and also like developing your body from a movement standpoint led to being able to be better at competing in powerlifting and better at competing in kettlebells later on?
I think it definitely planted a lot of seeds that I wasn't aware of until honestly the last few years. I mean, from the perspective that when he came in and he was my coach, it was about 2 years after the Atlanta Games, and he was still contemplating competing, in 2000. And so he was still very much in his prime, more or less. I mean, gymnastics, the age for the males, you don't really males compete at a higher level much later than females. Females tend to be a little bit younger, but still then, like, you're not going to be typically in your mid to late 20s ever as a male gymnast. It's going to be very rare. So he was still in great shape. And, one of the things, even from a nutritional standpoint, like a lot of my philosophy today on training is more holistically centered. And he always told us, like, from kids, he goes, if you want to be like me, if you want to look like me, if you want to be a champion, like, you can't eat fast food. So I definitely still ate fast food as a kid from time to time, but that was amazing for someone to put that in our heads at that age. So whether it was from, like, a nutritional standpoint, from just like getting over fears. I mean, he was just amazing. I mean, he would still train in the gym. So we got to really look up to someone who was doing it and who was living it. So I got to observe what an Olympic athlete looks like and trains like, and the mindset around it. So maybe I didn't realize it so much at that point, but definitely later.
That's just absolutely massive. I mean, you got to spend time with somebody that had, like, is top of the top of the top. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, like, why kettlebells? Like, what do you like about them so much? Like, so you did gymnastics, switched to powerlifting. Why kettlebells?
At that point, I was, I enjoyed them a lot at Westside, and then in Olympic weightlifting, I really enjoyed Olympic weightlifting, but my kind of nature is way, way more like a fast twitch athlete. Like, anything more than, honestly, 3 repetitions for me is a marathon. And so when I was taking, yeah, right. When I was taking a certification course, one of the instructors was a kettlebell sport competitor, and actually our good friend, Jason Dolby and John Buckley were the assistant instructors at that course. And John pulled me aside and said, I think you'd be really good at this kettlebell sport thing. And at that time, I had no idea what it was. And I was like, wow, Olympic movements with an implement that I love, now done for 10 minutes, which is totally out of my comfort zone. So it was more what was challenging for me and hard for me of what really has attracted me and kept me in the sport, because by no means is any set still over 3 repetitions easy for me.
Isn't that funny how that goes? Like chin-ups are that way for me. It's like, I don't care if I'm doing 100 pounds or if I'm doing just my body weight. If I got to do 6 reps, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And that hasn't changed. 9 years. I'm still the same, man.
Yeah. I started lifting 20 years ago, and I'm still just like, oh, really? Like, I don't want to do that.
6 pull-ups.
Yeah, 6 pull-ups. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much weight I'm trying to do, but what was it like training at Westside? I mean, not very many people. By the way, guys, for the people who don't know about, Westside is the strongest gym in the world, hands down, no doubt about it. What do they probably have? How many guys squatting over 1,000 pounds there right now? I think the last time I checked, it was like 13. Yeah,
when I was there, it was well over 8-9 people, and then deadlifting, in the 9s, benching, 600 to 700 pound benchers was nothing short of like strange or anything over there. It was, dime a dozen almost.
That's wild. There's just so much weight to think, oh, I'm just going to put 1,000 pounds on my back, go down to parallel and pop up.
So
it's nuts. Yeah. What's that?
You were saying what was Westside kind of that experience like? Yeah. I was out there when I was 19 for a month. So it was, and that's the only thing I was doing. I was living in a hotel room and just training. A lot of times double days, except if it was 1 or 2 off days a week. And it was very intense. Like, it's essentially, at least when I was there, I mean, I haven't, followed up in 12 years, but it was really only the strong survives, man. And I don't think it's changed very much. I mean, the way Louis runs that gym is just like, there was 2 guys, visitors, because Louis is very open and welcoming, or at least he was, especially when I was there, to bringing new people in and letting them train. And, if you couldn't cut it, he would kick you out right away. Like, literally, he booted people out of the gym while I was there. And because that's his home.
Like that. Like, I have a lot of respect for that. Like, it's like, hey, if you're not going to work hard, get out. Like, I've got principles, get out.
Yeah, exactly. And there's absolutely no favorites. And I remember, I don't know if you recall a guy named Chuck Vogopol.
That name sounds really familiar.
He was kind of like Louis' protege, I would say, more or less. And I don't know where he's at lately, but he was like one of his first guys, I believe, to squat over 1,000, 900-pound deadlifter, one of the most intense people I've ever met in my life. But like, when I was training in the morning session, for example, and if Chuck didn't have a training partner, I would train with him. And I remember like doing rack pulls in the cage, and in the cage, at least, especially when you're doing partial pin pulls, let's say knee and above, obviously you can go a lot heavier than you can pull from the ground. And in that rack, there was only 50 kilo plates, so 110 pound jumps or 220 pound jumps on every rep. So I remember only getting in like 3 attempts because my best dead was like a little over 6. And you're just hopping in. I would whatever 45 plus 220, so 265. Then I would do like 370 or 475, whatever it was, and then by then I was like mid sixes, and I was done. That was my set. I got 3 attempts in, and then Chuck went in, and he was pulling in the cage well over 1,000. So yeah, and that's I think I truly believe like if you want to be the best version of yourself possible, you have to surround yourself with the best, and that's what I try to do as much as possible in every sport. And Westside was one of the greatest foundations I received in terms of strength and conditioning, mindset. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Louis and his teachings and what he, gives to the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like he is the godfather of strength and conditioning in the United States. Like the guy's amazing. I mean, it sounds like he barely graduated high school, and yet he's just like, and he's so like non-apologetic about it. He's just like, well, what do you mean? Like, this is how I do it. Just do that.
I remember when I was
kind of a genius.
Yeah, genius. Absolutely. I remember when I was 15 and I had like, I still have probably like 15 plus Westside VHSs from probably 15 plus years ago before I went out there. And I remember watching each one like, I don't know, 5-6 times and just taking notes because he talks so fast that you can't, there's no, especially if it's new information for you, you can never get it all in the first time. And everyone who would walk in the room and see me, just like he's got a very characteristic voice as well. So my brother and my sister were walking.
You got that squirrely voice where he's just like, rah, rah, rah.
But it's brilliant. It's brilliant information, and it really works.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who trained there for like 3 months. He just went there like for a summer. And every time that I lift with him, he doesn't believe in quarters. He's like, he'll never put a 25-pound weight on the bar. So when you're lifting with him, you're just gonna go. It's like 135, 225, 315, 405, and you get to a certain weights where he squats. I'm pretty sure he's up in the 900s now. The last time I saw him in person, max out, he did 835, which is a lot of weight. So he's doing way more weight than me, and he's like, just do it. I'm like, dude, I can't even barely take that bar. I can't even unrack that. And you're asking me, I'm not gonna do it. Like, no. And he's like, well, I don't believe in quarters. But he turns into like a different person when he starts lifting. And that's how I kind of imagine that Westside is. Just like a bunch of guys like goofing around. All right, let's lift and call each other out on stuff for an hour,
Yeah,
totally. But I've never been there, so. But no, what do you compete in kettlebells? What do you think about, because there's a big difference between like competing, training for competition, and just training for health. So like, where do you kind of like how do you describe that? Or like you can go wherever you want with it, I guess.
Well, I think in my experience, like I always see health as the foundation for performance. I know that a lot of people maybe not see them as synonymous, but just having been injured, and that's one thing we didn't discuss, like I've been injured almost in every sport I competed with and really in the last 3 or so years working very closely with a holistic health practitioner, Paul Check. He was the one guy who really helped rehabilitate me. And what I really learned from him is that, again, health is the foundation for all performance. So the big distinction, what's that?
I couldn't agree more. I just couldn't agree more. Like it all starts with health. Like whether you're in performance or you're in just living every day, like you can still apply that health model. Like it still makes sense. But
absolutely. I mean, the big difference is maybe just like the competitive mindset and like, obviously like if you're training to be a world champion, like you need to train X amount of times a week. Your recovery strategy is going to have to be a little bit more dialed in. Your nutrition is going to have to be a little bit more dialed in. Whereas, maybe like for health, like the 80-20 rule applies. Like 80% of the time you take care of yourself and you can, enjoy the other 20. Whereas if you're trying to be, the highest level competitor you can, you might have to live 95-5, 90-10. The margin is a little bit less because the training stress is that much higher. So you have to manage yourself that much better. But if you miss the health component, then the performance component typically is very short-lived because an injury is going to happen or something's going to come up.
Right. Yeah, that was always the thing in my career. Is just like I've injured every joint on the right side of my body at some point, like elbow, shoulder, wrist, hip, knee. When I did my foot, they actually told me that I might not walk. They were like, if you would have, they said you might not walk again, essentially. Make a really long story short. But that was like a weird thing to hear when you're 20, I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. Like, that's a strange thing to hear. Like, you might not walk again. I'm like, I'm a collegiate athlete. What the hell are you talking about? And so, like, I think, like, you're not going to be able to play sports if you're not healthy. So you got to focus on the health side of it too. Like, you got to stay healthy to actually be able to go out and get it. But what goes into like why you do this? Like what drives you along? Is it the competitive mindset where you're just like, you got a little beast in you that's just like, nah, I got to go out and compete?
For me, I'm honestly, don't get me wrong, like I get competitive with certain people, but like for me, I'm way more competitive with myself. Like I could train most of my life. I train in my garage by myself. Like I'm pretty self-motivated, and even on the platform, it means so much more to me if I hit a personal best than if I beat the guy next to me. I mean, not that there's not something cool with finishing first, but like I'm always looking for the PR in me, because like I know that if I do that, if I hit a PR, I hit some type of personal record at any way, shape, or form, then I can walk away being happy, because I've lost plenty of competitions, but I've been, absolutely joyful because I've, put out my best performance. That's what matters to me. That's where I get really competitive, is with myself. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. 'Cause, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, like that's the only thing that you can control anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like what else are you like? Are you going to hope that the other person loses just so you can win? Or are you just going to go out there, But so you've used the word holistic a couple of times. Holistic gets really beaten up. It's one of those buzzwords. It's like people think like they hear holistic and they're like, skeptic eye goes up. What do you think? I think what they hear is homeopathic. Like they hear snake oil. They hear. What do you think of when you're looking at things as a holistic, from a holistic view?
So the way I kind of look at it is I look at the body as a system of systems, right? So if you were injured, right, if you had an elbow issue, like I would never look at the elbow. What I would want to look at, like, what is going on in the whole person, not only physically, but like, I mean, these are other buzzwords too: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. So looking at the body as a system of systems that uses an individualized approach that does not just treat symptoms, but looks a little bit deeper at root causes. And if we take that model and apply it to athletics, like it's really a four-pronged system that I really learned from Paul in the Czech Institute. It's looking at the mental component of someone, which is tightly correlated to their emotional state. Then looking at the rest, repair, what's their sleep like, all that stuff. Then what is the physical component? And the physical component we break up into two categories. So most people are just familiar with the working out component, right? That's our energy expenditure. That's our time in the gym. But that's only 50% of the physical coin. The other 50% is our working in component. So that would be anything that would be energy accumulators. So whether it's meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, easy walking. So because most people in my experience today, and I say this because I was one of those, and I can tend to be one of those, we always pull money out of the ATM, but we never put money back in. Right, so as Paul always told me when I was injured, he goes, are you training or are you draining? So it can be very, very important to balance that. And then the last thing is the nutritional component. So just like if you look at just, like having four wheels of a car, you have the diet or the nutritional component, the physical, which is the working out combined with working in. Then you have the mental, emotional component, and then you have the rest and repair side. So when I look at holistic, I'm looking at the whole person. I'm looking at a system of systems, and I'm looking at treating myself and anyone I'm working with through this kind of four-pronged model.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's not how I explain it. You went like PhD level. I try to say like second grade level when I'm talking with people. So I hope everybody really appreciates that watched that, because that was a gem right there. That was great. We're gonna take this whole interview. I'm just gonna cut out that piece. I'm gonna post that up.
All right. Yeah, well, I got to give Paul Check a lot of credit, because he's the one who really, supported me, kind of, learning and living that message. So big hats off to Paul for that, for sure.
Yeah, that dude is super interesting. Like a deep level thinker. Like he's not a young guy anymore. And he still, I mean, he looks better than almost every, he looks awesome. Like he's all ripped up.
Yeah, he's in his 50s, mid-50s. He's a good friend of mine. And he's just, but you know why? I tell you one thing, I mean, one of the reasons why I respect him so much is because he lives what he teaches. And I've known him, and I've been a close friend with him now for over 3 years, almost 4 years. And I think that's why, hands down, why I have so much respect, because, I mean, this guy eats, sleeps, breathes, shits what he teaches, and it's no bullshit. And you can't help whether you agree with his teachings or not. And for some people, he might be a little bit out there, but you can't help but just respect the life and the dedication to being an authentic message deliverer.
Yeah, and like he's willing to give his perspective too. I think that's kind of what people hate on him for, is like, because like people don't like their perspective to be challenged, and he goes ahead and throws it out there, even though it sounds kooky as hell. Sometimes you're like, Paul, what the hell are you talking about here? Yeah, but some of it's really like pretty brilliant stuff, and some of it's kind of it's hard to deny. A lot of it is, but yeah, I find him to be a very interesting guy, but he definitely doesn't look like he's 55 years old. Is that what he said he was? He's 55. I know he's not yet.
Well, his birthday's coming up in August, so give or take 55 within a year or so.
He's mid-50s. It's cool with me. But so, are you training others at this point? Or are you mostly focusing on yourself?
So right now, I'm going to focus heavily on myself, but I've always been in strength and conditioning. I've been a strength and conditioning coach for, since pretty much I just got out of college. But actually now this year, I'm in full time now, strength conditioning, and primarily teaching workshops. I do a little bit of one-on-one, but primarily getting out there teaching workshops from optimizing health and performance to kettlebells for jiu-jitsu, MMA, kettlebell training in general, sport. So the primary tool is the kettlebell, but applied to all sports and to kind of all intentions with that holistic mindset.
Yeah, dude, kettlebells are awesome. Like even like the bottom up position alone, like just holding a bottoms up position for like shoulder stability and gaining strength in different movement patterns, and then you add the swing into it. I just think like even if those were the only two gifts that the kettlebell gave to the world, it's genius. It's just so brilliant. It's amazing. But no, do you want to give them some of your do you have any? I don't know how to explain. How do you explain the numbers and how you actually compete for kettlebells so that they can know just kind of the level that you're at?
Sure. So in kettlebell sport, the main lift that I compete in is long cycle, which is 2 kettlebells, 1 in each hand, clean and jerk. And we do that repetitively for 10 minutes. So my weight is 232 kilo bells, or 72-ish pounds each. So about 144 pounds total. And so my body weight's just under 170, so like 169, something like that. And I've done 51 reps in 10 minutes. And then right now I'm doing a double 40, so 288 pounds each, so 176. And going for nonstop without setting the bells down, clean and jerk, for 5 minutes. So if you set the bells down, the set's over. You have to continuously, keep going on the repetitions there.
Dude, you're a psycho. Like, why you even want to do that?
I love the challenge of it, man. I love the challenge.
Yeah. Dude, that just sounds painful. That just sounds like it hurts. It's all yours. It's all yours, Mike. You have it. No, kettlebells actually end up like. I have to be a little careful with them. I can only hit I can go heavy for a low. If I try to do too many repetitions, I have actually like a little nerve damage in my hip. So if I just move with the kettlebell just a little bit wrong, I really screw it up. So I gotta be really careful. But so I'll leave that. Like the competitiveness, that's the competition of kettlebell. That's all you, man. But, any other sort of trinkets of wisdom or anything else that you want to leave, or how and make sure to put in there how they can follow you, get a hold of you, contact you, sort of thing. But any other nuggets that you want to leave people with, words of wisdom?
I think the main thing is really just back to that principle that health is performance, because I think that especially, when people are trying to, achieve their goals, whether it's a body composition goal, a sport competition goal, whatever it is, they tend to think that if they lose weight, they're going to get healthy. When I feel it should be flipped around, like get healthy and then the weight will just come off. Get healthy and then you'll be able to compete for the rest of your life. Get healthy and then you'll be able to, play with your kids at an old age if that's your goal, whatever it is. But focus on health first, and then with that, you can really do whatever the hell you want to do, and you can do it for as long as your heart desires. So that would be I would say my tip.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Yeah. But how do they follow you? How do they get a hold of you? How do they contact you?
Yes, please. So I'm most active right now on Instagram, and the hashtag my Instagram name is Kettlebell Lifestyle, and there's 3 L's in the middle. So it's Kettlebell Lifestyle with 3 L's in the middle. And you can email me at mike@kettlebelllifestyle.com. I'm doing workshops on the topics we mentioned before, also customize a bunch of topics. If anyone wants to, shoot me an email, I would love to explore it. But thank you so much for having me.
Dude, it's awesome to have you. This is a fantastic interview. I hope people really took a lot away from this, because there's serious diamonds in this thing. But anyway, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. You took the time out, and I know the people here do too. But anyway,
my pleasure. Take it easy.
You ready? All right, thanks, man.